Hi there, yep, that's right, great, glorious, simply famous one day, Nick Dutch back on the camera yet again, just pacing around, chilling out, going low resolution because basically my big camera, my good camera is currently on charge, so unfortunately you've got to put up with me being low resolution, and all you wonderful people out there who say that my voice sounds so incredibly sexy, unfortunately I'm just going to be just a little distorted just for today, but don't worry about that, because at some point in the future I'm going to get myself a good audio recorder when I'm finally wealthy enough. Today I want to talk about hypnotism. Why? Because hypnotism is a fascinating and complex subject, controversial as all subjects are, because there's always something called a skeptic. It's not that I actually hate the skeptics, it's the fact that the skeptics happen to be very, very skeptical. Which means that even if there is some hard and fast evidence for something, they're not necessarily going to pay attention to that, and they're going to go through the process of doing some misrepresenting of stuff. Anyway, what is hypnotism? Well, I've been doing a spot of Wikipedia research, and it's got quite a long and interesting history. Possibly started off with people like Mesmer, who coined the term mesmerism, but it works on very different theoretical principles on what we now call hypnotism. If we go back to one of my favorite New Age occult books, which is of course Transcendental Magic by the divine Alphonse Louis Constant, okay, he mentions Mesmer, which is of course probably the key weird topic of his day. Alright, so naturally he would mention Mesmer. But a lot of the early work was done by a geezer called Braid, who wrote stuff in 1841. And he specialized in a form of hypnosis which was based upon focusing on a particular object, okay, optical fascination. The definitions of hypnotism have been completely written and rewritten, and there's been even new definitions of hypnotism which have been created way back as late as 2005. So it's an emerging subject, it's still a developing subject, and there's still an awful lot which is not known about hypnotism and what it's actually there for. Some of the YouTube videos on the subject of hypnotism cover this thing which is like a gateway between the conscious and subconscious mind, and the hypnotists say that their job is to try and access the subconscious mind. The whole process of inducing hypnosis happens through something called induction, which could take in some cases a couple of days of teaching a person how to relax and then going into the various states of consciousness and the rest of it, and to try and actually access the subconscious mind. But induction can happen in different ways. There's two main theories about hypnotism that I'm aware of now. One of them is called state theory, which suggests that hypnosis, the hypnotized state, is an altered state of being, okay, which is like focused attention, like you're conscious, but your attention is focused and you lose some sense of the peripheral world, so like maybe your hands and your feet, or maybe the thing that you're sitting on or lying on, or possibly the outside world, depending upon how deep you are. But there's also this non-state theory, which suggests something completely different. Namely, it's possible to suggest to people that they become more awakened, more aroused, so to speak. Alright, which then implies that hypnosis itself could be much more akin to a form of placebo effect. So the skeptics out there, what they do is they say, well, can you then prove that there's no real difference, or any real difference between hypnosis and just a whopping great placebo effect with some other things thrown in, just to amplify and make the whole effect much more powerful. Okay? Well, to which I've got a personal objection, namely, number one, you're putting extra things in to make the whole thing more powerful. Alright, therefore there is the suggestion of a possibility of a change of state. And number two, we've got an awful lot more knowledge these days about brainwave activity and the fact that you can actually induce different states of consciousness, so to speak, with the help of binaural beats, beeping noises, flashing lights, and all the rest of that jazz, which suggests that there's more states of consciousness that you could be in, and maybe some of them could actually be better than others, okay? So it's a complex subject, but if we take the idea, which I thought was interesting, of focused attention with a sense of lack of peripheral awareness, that ties in very nicely with what people who are occult experimenters like myself would actually do, alright? I don't know if you are a weird, new agey, occulty person like myself, but if you are, you may have heard of something called a path-working exercise, which is basically an imaginative journey which is done in a relaxed state of mind. You know, you go into what is essentially a meditation state, and you go on a meditative journey. Now, when I've done this before, well, I do it quite a lot, it doesn't feel too abnormal when I'm doing it. Alright, it doesn't feel that strong or that powerful, apart from when I come out of it, and then I realize how deep I was actually in that particular imaginative world that I was creating and trying to control through concentration. Alright, so that would demonstrate to me that maybe there is a state of consciousness aspect going on here, and it's not quite so purely suggestion as the skeptics would actually suggest. But that's just my, my humble opinion based upon experiences and basically what I know. There's a lot to it, and I think that hypnosis is one of those things that we've got to know and understand. Now, I think the guy's name was Ryan or Runyon, who did the videos on goetic magic and the use of the speculum or black mirror. Now, he says that when he was starting to find out about this type of stuff, he realized that the exercise itself was hypnotic. Okay, so he believed in suggestion, he believed in the possibility of an altered state of consciousness thing which could help to trigger off the end results. And he also suggested you don't really need to have any other forms of psychic power because it's all down to forms of suggestion. But I personally feel that suggestion can go two ways. Alright, you can suggest to be sensitive to a particular thing, or you can suggest to be open to other forms of impressions that might come your way. Alphonse Louis Constant, when he did that wonderful ritual that I mentioned in my video on Eliphas Levi and why he was a great magician, he said that Apollonius, I think it was, appeared in a manner or a form which he did not associate with Apollonius. So maybe his hypnotic state that he was in during his occult ritual was a sort whereby he could become sensitive to something else. Whether that was something else inside him or just something else outside him, we don't know. Alright. I personally feel that this hypnosis thing is something that it's kind of like a gateway tool to be able to potentially experience something of an abnormal nature. And that's why I think that meditation and prayerful exercises as well as hypnotism are important things for people to learn. But literally, don't get too obsessed by this stuff. Just, this is all an experiential, experimental art form. So enjoy it, take it one step at a time, challenge your own experiences, because otherwise you will basically go completely and utterly insane, as did some people who I used to know. So, watch yourself there. But in the meantime, have fun. Great and glorious, and to be famous one day, Nick Dutch. Signing out. I'm exhausted and I'm going to get some sleep. See you in a while.